everybody, welcome to episode 14 of Brown Horror's Behind the Horror segment. It's hard to believe that we're on episode 14 at this point, but we are joined with the cast and crew of Johnny, a film by John Charles Gerald, who is joining us tonight. He was the writer and director of the film, along with one of his actors from the film, Gary Quart. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. How y'all doing?
Good.
Very well. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. This is brought to us courtesy of Sherry Flaherty over at Samara Entertainment. I want to give a big shout out to her and Midnight Releasing for getting this film distributed. And we look forward to the next one and everything that she does for us. We really appreciate. It was awesome checking out this film today, and I cannot wait to talk about it and share a personal story centered around a ventriloquist dummy that seemed to take on a life of its own. So, without further ado, John Charles Gerald, Gary Quart. We always like to do a little bit of an icebreaker whenever we bring on folks to our segment. A little bit of horror trivia. Are you guys down for that?
Sure.
Oh God.
Oh, the enthusiasm. It's going to be good, I promise. Okay. So, as I showed you guys in the lobby, we got our textbook here. This is a gift from my dad. Horror, the definitive companion to the most terrifying movies ever made. I even got a little bit extra and tabbed out all the decades. So we're gonna let Gary do the honors. Gary, I want you to pick a decade between. Yeah, we'll do 1930 to 2000s. From the 30s to the 2000s.
I'm an old guy. Go ahead. Okay, that's good.
Which one?
1930s.
You want to go 30s horror trivia?
Yeah.
All right.
Try that one out and see what happens.
Okay. So the way we're going to do this is, I'll tab through here real quick. So, the 30s. Okay. So the 30s were really big about converting all those Edgar Allan Poe stories into films. That was a real big thing. Okay, we got Frankenstein, of course, Son of Frankenstein. Okay. So, first, we just played to the first of three points. And when you want to answer, you think you know the answer, just shoot your hand up. I'll call on you. You give the answer, and whoever wins gets nothing, but you get the recognition. Okay. We'll start off with a softball question. Okay. This 1931 film, directed by Todd Browning, is centered around a pointy-toothed fellow.
Dracula.
Without even shooting the hand up, he knew the answer.
Oh, Dracula.
Yeah, okay.
I don't follow instructions very well.
It was a softball question. I knew you was going to get that one right. Okay, here's the next one. All right. Also let's go. Oh man, this is great. I actually watched this for the first time this year, courtesy of the Criterion Collection. Thank you, Top Shelf. Okay. So, this is a 1931 film directed by Fritz Lang, German director, and it stars Peter Lorre. Any ideas?
Wasn't it
Gary?
Was it a Dostoevsky film? Oh no, I know which one you're talking about. The Hand.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you a hint.
To do with a hand.
I'll give you a hint. The entire film title is one letter of the alphabet.
I just watched that a couple weeks ago also.
26 possible choices.
Yeah, that helps.
The entire title was what?
One letter.
V.
It's only one letter?
Yeah. Gary?
V.
No.
Okay.
John Charles?
No.
Okay. The film was called M.
M. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually about a child abductor who I guess ends up killing the kids or whatever. It's like so when I first saw the movie this year, it made me it harkened back to, they used to comedically portray this Peter Lorre character in Looney Tunes cartoons.
Mhm.
And yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Next question. Let's go. Let's do in the 30s, man.
Well, if you want to move it up a little bit, that's okay.
Well, the 30s were kind of our golden era here. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have what we have now. Here we go. What 1933 film starred Fay Wray and was about a very large ape-like creature?
Oh. Ape-like creature being large, King Kong?
Yes. King Kong. Absolutely. All right, so we're 1-1 here. Okay. So just to keep things moving and interesting, I'm going to pick the next decade category. We're going to go 70s. And for the 70s, we're going to do a quick we'll do a little bit of another little softball here. 1979. 1979 spaceship Nostromo lands and finds a face-hugging creature. What film was that? John Charles was shooting his hand up there.
Alien?
You got it right. Absolutely, Alien.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, so we're 1-2. John Charles is in the lead. We're going to go with...
I was doubting myself there for a moment.
I'm sorry about the 30s. You know. I watch a lot of Spin Dooley, and he goes back then. So.
All right, here we go. Let's do... Yeah. I saw this in theaters for my birthday. 1974 Tobe Hooper film about a crazy family, and there's some tools involved, and there's a... Okay, Gary, go ahead.
Leatherneck, Texas Chainsaw.
We're almost there on that whole title.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes, there we go. All right, Gary won. I knew that was going to happen. Gary was trying to fake us out about his knowledge, and he ends up winning the whole shebang.
Sorry. Sorry, boss.
Gary can go back and be like, yeah, I know all about horror. Let me show you a few things. Okay, so here we are. We're talking about John Charles's film, Johnny, which... To be honest, I don't really know how to just get into talking about it. And honestly, and the only way I know how to start is we review, our main thing is reviewing independent horror films on this channel, okay? So without any hesitation in this statement, I would have to say that this has probably got the best shots of any independent horror film that we've ever reviewed, that I've ever watched.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. Of any one that we have reviewed on this channel so far, the thing that stuck out to me most beyond story, beyond underlying tones, beyond, acting, any of that, was all of your choices for the shots that you did. So can you talk a little bit about that, about like how you use like certain, like what certain images stuck out to you to incorporate in this film? Because it almost, to me, it almost plays out like stuff you would see in a dream that was put into a film.
Right. Yes. So, well, this film is very special because it's told in a hallucinogenic, if that's even a word, point of view from the character. And it's a combination of a theatrical and a naturalistic style of film, with that middle view of being hallucinogenic from the character's point of view. So it's a very deep, disturbing, even the subject itself is a little bit, nowadays it's kind of like you have to be kind of careful with these type of subjects, but the way I did it, being from that point of view of the character and enhancing the story from with enhancements to the characters, makes it a little more digestible, but still being very disturbing. And I chose to do it that way because of that same reason, because it's such a it's a sensitive, subject, abuse in a child's life. That's so if you choose the right point of view from the shots, from the angles, from where the story is being told, it can balance out all of that kind of touchy, the touchy
Right.
subject.
Well, that's one of the things I was thinking about as I was watching the film was, well, essentially the same process that happens every time I watch one when we're going to review and talk about one, is I kind of try to ask myself questions as I'm watching it, for the director, filmmaker, and like, what, do I need to ask about that? What do I need to say about that? I don't, for this one, I felt like I got what you were putting out, but to me, it almost felt like, yes, I'm watching a piece of cinema, but I felt like I was watching someone's diary.
Right.
Am I going too far out on a limb saying that, or
No, you're
okay?
You're right on point, because I actually, and I'm very open about this. I say it in my biography, in my website. I'll say it in all the interviews. I don't mind. Some of this stuff I actually lived in my childhood from a relative, and so I kind of adapted this into the story and made it in that center point from the theatrical and naturalistic point of view, where it sits right in the middle, to make it a little bit more less disturbing to watch. So yes, it's based on true events. So it is a diary of that dark moment that I lived, and it's also a film. So it's based on true events, which is it's what gets you.
Yeah, absolutely. And having read articles about abuse, child abuse and stuff like that, and hearing stories about how folks cope with that or harness it, or they end up holding on to it for so long throughout the years and stuff like that.
Right.
Do you feel like after that happened, a couple, say years down the line, whatever, did you ever look for an outlet to try to release that? And then finally, whenever you became a filmmaker or whatever, you're like, oh my God, I think this is how I can get that out. Did you try anything beforehand?
No, actually, I love this question because this is the reason I made the movie, because as a filmmaker, you have a responsibility to share a message. I don't believe in just making a film, just sitting there and just trying to think what to write. I think that we have that responsibility as filmmakers to share an important message. And more importantly, if that message is actually a truthful message, if it happened in real life. So I never looked for any help or any outlet to cope with this, because this is a very terrible thing. Like if I don't know if anyone here has in this meeting has experienced that, or anybody watching, I'm sure I was reading there's almost 9 out of 10 people out there who have experienced some sort of abuse from somebody, and it's usually from a close person, like a relative or something. So no, I never did, and there's a lot of reasons why, because the abuser usually, and as portrayed in the film, the abuser usually uses intimidation tactics to keep the victim silent. And so for many years, I never said anything to anybody. And when I made this film, as you said, this was the perfect avenue to. This was like my own therapy. Like when a painter like Frida, like when she used to paint all those horrific, things, it was her way of expressing and kind of healing, and kind of just because if you leave that all in, and you don't, like you said, if you don't talk to anybody about it, it can rot in your life. So this was the perfect avenue for me to, and I wasn't looking for it. It just kind of happened. Like, I have a story to tell. Why am I going to write a sci-fi film when I have this? And it just kind of happened. It was just, I was picked to write my own story.
Thank you for sharing that aspect of it, Gary. I'd like to hear from you. Can you tell us a little bit how you got involved with the film, and kind of like what your initial thoughts were about the subject material, and kind of taking on the role that you had?
John and I met through a mutual friend, and to make a long story short, he kind of said, "You look like somebody that I would need to use in a film, a little old and creepy." And I thought, oh, okay, I can go along with that. And in the beginning,
I don't think you look old and creepy, Gary. But I mean,
it was an icebreaker.
You're old.
Yeah. But in the beginning, I wasn't sure what it was about. I was introduced to a puppet, and he said the puppet was going to be kind of an alternate personality. And the first time he brought out the puppet, wow, it was a bit creepy.
Did the puppet have a name on set?
I'm sure it was Johnny when you call it that.
Yeah.
And
okay. You still have the puppet, John?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he still has it.
Okay. Sorry, Gary, I didn't mean to cut you off, man. Go ahead.
No. It's when I first saw it, one of the things about horror movies that sucks me in a bit is the eyes. Okay?
Yeah.
Like the poster behind you, you don't see anything.
Right.
You see, a face, and there's nothing there. This puppet's eyes were like they were halfway shut and halfway back. And this is going to be creepy. What do you want me to do with this? And he started to describe what the process was going to be. And I think the first thing we did, I hope you don't mind me saying this, was he had me in bed with the puppet. And I wasn't sure where we were going with that, but we were moving around and setting up cameras. And my roommate at that time just happened to walk by, and I didn't know she was there, and she just busted up laughing. But at that point, I really wasn't sure where we're going with the movie. Right. I just said that I was a fiction or a figment of somebody's imagination, and the puppet was part of it. And it just kind of went from there into where it became.
Wow.
And I, at certain times after filming, I saged the house just to, get some of the spirit and some of the energy that came from the movie out of it, just to make it a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah.
And it was different, but I've never done anything like that before. I had some time at acting school and learned how to do the Meisner method and all that. And everything that I learned there, I didn't use any of it with him because he just has his own way of doing things. And, I was very comfortable with that.
John Charles, was that you said that was your idea for him to be in bed with the puppet?
Yes. Well, what it was that I was doing some test shots because I had a sequence in my head of him, of his character just doing all these daily things with the puppet, like brushing his teeth with the puppet in the bathroom, taking a shower while the puppet was there, sleeping next to the puppet, eating with the puppet. But these were just brainstorms in my, I was just brainstorming some sequences. But I must confess, I was kind of a little nervous at first to tell anybody what this film was about, because we actually did have kind of a large crew at a moment in the middle of the film, and they started leaving because they were just creeped out by the atmosphere of it. And
there were some pieces of dialogue that probably could have turned a few people off.
Oh yeah, the dialogue is heavy, especially towards the end, and it's a very disturbing film, I must say. So I was a little bit nervous at first to tell people, like, all right, here's the full script. I knew a lot of people were just going to be like too creeped out about it, especially with that subject of child abuse. So I kind of kept it with them, the actors that stayed. I kind of kept it as we film as we go, and it worked. And it's funny because in my private screening, the very first one, I don't think they had ever really realized what the whole film was about. We just kept shooting as we went, and I was hoping they wouldn't leave because it was so creepy, and they loved it. So yes, at the very end, in the first private screening, they really they knew what it was about, but they didn't know the whole thing until this private screening.
Well, as a filmmaker, an actor, you're an artist, and you have this cinematic canvas to work with, and for the subject matter to be what it is, and for you to paint this picture in the way that you did it, so there was maybe some dialogue that didn't leave anything to the imagination, but the rest of it, as you said, in private screenings, folks left not really knowing what it was really about, but had their opinion of the film. I'm excited that you chose to go the route that you did. I've seen I've seen and heard of some pretty disturbing films. 120 Days of Sodom, I think it's called, Salo. That was a Criterion release. That was just balls to the wall craziness. And then like on those top 10 horror films you'll never watch list, a Serbian film is on there.
Oh yeah.
I think, but even beyond that, you can watch stuff like that, and no matter what you see, however grotesque it is, it's fake.
Right.
What got me with this, and then actually having read, your interview afterwards, was the dialogue and the way that you filmed it and putting all that together. It did leave me kind of like, man, that was kind of rough watching that. But when I don't regret watching it, because like I said, it was almost like in front of me, I was watching an open diary, and I was watching these events unfold and listening to these things happen. And as humans, we're so curious and we're so intrigued and we want to know more, and, for lack of a better word, nosy. And we want to try to understand and learn. And I hope that as it goes further and people watch this film and listen to this interview, when they take on Johnny for the first time, they can watch this and be like, there'll be several people who watch it that maybe have went through some stuff. And when And when they watch it, you know, they can identify and be like, you know, hey, you know, this guy used this as an outlet. Maybe that will prompt them to, you know, seek help or a way to cope or use their abilities to, you know, release that. And I applaud you, man. I think that's really great.
Thank you. You know what? Now that you say that, I didn't put this in the credits, but I was actually going to put a little message in the credits somewhere that said, not verbatim, but it was, the idea was to speak out, to not be silent about abuse. But I didn't end up putting it on there, but this is exactly the whole reason, I guess, of me making this film is so that other people cannot be silent, stay silent about it. They could just you know, seek help or talk to somebody, or make a painting, make a film, a song, something. It helps. You know, you can't let that sink in there, or it's going to destroy you. And it's a very horrible thing to live. You know, it's abuse. Abuse is serious, you know, especially when you're a kid, and especially when it's coming from an adult. It's a very serious thing. It's very damaging to the person, even as they grow older. It's a for life. It's a scar for life. So that's one of the main reasons why I made the film, so other people can hopefully, that have lived this, can, you know what, I should talk to somebody about this. I should, you know,
Right.
Don't let it sink in there.
Yes. Well, thanks for shedding light on that, and, you know, elaborating and stuff like that. Going back to Mr. Gary, what I'd like to do is ask you, is there any particular scene with the old puppet there that kind of sticks out to you?
Yeah, it was the one in the bedroom where I was talking to him about his father. And there was the shot from Johnny's point of view up, where I'm standing over him in my red shirt here. And I don't know how many times I had to redo it, because it was really a little bit difficult for me to concentrate on being that mean and nasty and overbearing to something.
Okay, so can we not to cut, I want to unpack that for a second, because that's a great point, because you both seem like good people. And Gary, you seem pretty, you know, you've been kind of jovial, you know, and, you know, laid back and stuff. What is it like as an actor to read in a script, okay, I've got to do and say all this stuff? How difficult was that for you to do? Where did you some actors talk about pulling from somewhere to make that happen? You know, what was kind of your process on that?
It was basically him guiding me through it.
Okay.
Because he's the one with the emotion and knowing all of it. If I can just go about what I used to be a cop. And
okay.
I used to go and investigate things like that, but you take it to a certain point and then it's given way to the courts. I'd never dealt with anybody in his position where he was actually letting me into his life. And there's a certain way that he wanted me to portray, you know, that figment of his imagination going towards the figment of his imagination. And I'm not an overbearing, mean person, and he had to bring that out of me and explain how that was going to work in order for that scene to work. And it was really kind of where I was almost shaking a little bit when I shut it and I said, "Good night, don't let the bed bugs bite," or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Right.
Oof, you know.
Yeah. Right.
That's it. You know, let's take a break for a while, and we did. And I think we probably did that about 6 or 7 takes till I finally got it right, and then I wasn't afraid of being his imagination.
Right. There's you know, as we're talking about all this subject matter and reflecting back on the film, you know, looking at it earlier, it reminds me of a line in an Eric Church song. I don't know. I'm from the South. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. So country music, we like it all. So I don't know if you know Eric Church or not, or familiar. But he has a song called Monsters. And, what we talk about on here sometimes is monster movies. Well, one of the lines in one of his songs is talking about how the real monsters aren't the ones under the bed. And it kind of makes me think about this film being a monster movie, but you don't see the monster.
Right.
You are told in a roundabout way, and you figure out what the monster is, and it's not something that you can grasp, and it's not something you can throw kryptonite at or drive a stake through or any of that. It's something that has to be, still faced with courage and, all that, but it's not something, that we're seeing right in our face. So I would almost say this is almost like a.
Is it okay to compare another movie or say a movie's name?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
When I first saw the movie and the way that it ended, I thought it Blair Witch Project.
Okay.
Because there's just you're always doing this, and in the end, it's just like whoa.
Absolutely. It's so funny you brought that up. I rewatched that for the first time I'll tell you exactly when it was. The first time I saw Blair Witch Project, my uncle heard about it at work back in '99 when it had come out. It got released on VHS, right? He went to Walmart, bought it, brought it home to my grandparents' house. And it's the Blair Witch Project. It's supposed to be the scariest movie ever. And, this, that, and other. And we put it in and we watch it. And, my uncle was a very, straightforward, country kind of guy. He kind of everybody say he looked like Tom Selleck with his mustache and stuff. And we get him watching it. And I thought, man, that was kind of creepy. And I just remember him being like, son of a bitch, I wasted $10 on this movie. It was like all of that. And the guy is standing in the corner and it just ends. So it was so funny. I don't know, guys. It made me happy rewatching it yesterday or day before. And when it got to that part, I thought of him. He's since passed. So, but you hit the nail on the head with the whole Blair Witch thing. And man, that was. Yeah, I could see that. I could totally see that. Can I tell you about my experience with the ventriloquist dummy?
Yes, please.
Because Gary's talking about saging the house, and that's probably what we should have done back in the day. Okay. So, my mother has and always, is and always has been a big-time yard sailor. Garage sale, junk sale, rummage sales, whatever. Well, one Saturday, she goes out like normal and comes back with this ventriloquist dummy. Something very akin to Johnny, but without the glasses. And this one is dressed up in like a tuxedo. Well, it's creepy as hell anyway. And, I think for 2 seconds, I thought I was, try to learn how to, throw my voice or something, but that never happened. So anyways, the thing would stay upstairs. Actually in our bedroom, just like I think it ended up I don't know, there was like a junk pile or whatever. I don't know, she's gonna resell it. So this thing stayed there. We had this this one time I was home alone, me and her. We were just home alone. And I go in we're sitting in the living room. And I guess I went to the kitchen. And she got up and went to the bathroom. We ended up meeting back in the living room at the same time. And guess who's sitting on the couch?
The puppet?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it moved by itself?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
so
it's in my closet, so I think I'm gonna
put him in the glass case like Annabelle and say "Do not touch" and all that. Yeah. Now, now I'm like 33, and that she probably could have been playing a trick on me or something like that. If she did, and she's watching this, that's one hell of a joke. But I don't think she was that clever at the time, or had that much, quickness about her. So, and the only reason is there was a point where there was some Ouija board playing in our home. And it was my, after the Ouija board, after her playing with the Ouija board with her friend, that was my first and only ever case of sleep paralysis I've ever had when I was a young kid. Has anybody ever done that? Or had that happen to them?
Oh, God, no. No.
Gary, never? Sleep paralysis?
Were you, what was your experience?
Okay, so I fell asleep on the couch, right? And I'm a young kid, 7 or 8 probably. And as if I'm laying on the couch and the TV's in front of me, beyond the TV is the dining room where you can go into the kitchen area. So I'm laying there towards the TV and I fell asleep. And when I wake up, the first thing I realize is I'm awake, but I can't move. Mm-hmm. And then I see this dark, shadowy figure coming from the dining room, but it's up on the ceiling and it's coming towards me. It's
no face or any recognition.
No face. It's just this dark cloud coming towards me. And I was Pink Floyd, my lips moved, but I wasn't saying nothing. I couldn't get any sound out. So that happened. I just remember closing my eyes as tight as I could and just hoping that it would pass. And I guess I ended up falling back asleep or it passed or whatever. But I know for sure I was wide awake. And I know for sure exactly what I saw. So
I've had those a couple of times, and I wake up. My girlfriend says I sound like a moose.
Really?
Screaming, yeah.
I'll make sounds from time to time, messing with the dog, and my wife likes to tell me that I speak whale or beluga something or whatever. Because I'm like, woo! The dog's on the stair landing staring at me right now when I do that. Yeah, exactly.
I think I'm going to take some notes for a next film here. This is kind of interesting.
Well, I'll give you one more, John. I'll give you one more. This is centered around Buzz Lightyear. So 7 or 8, right? And I would have been. So Toy Story first came out in 96, right? And no, 95, 96. So I'm young. And, I got the dolls, Woody and Buzz, right? Buzz was my favorite. Buzz is behind our couch, just laying there, and a thunderstorm, big thunderstorms happening, lightning, all that. Nobody's there except me and my mom's roommate. And we're sitting on the couch having some ramen noodles, which was my favorite food at the time. And all of a sudden we hear Buzz Lightyear to the rescue. Nobody's doing anything. And, you as a kid, you peep over the couch and you look behind there and he's just laying there. And I'm like, okay, well, we're watching TV again and it's like to infinity and beyond. And it just goes off. So he's just randomly going off with his voice stuff. And the only way to do that is there was 3 buttons on his chest, that you had to press.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that toy went away.
My son has it. It's right over there.
Oh, really? Of course he does. Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, I was like, it never did it before, never did it again. But how convenient that it did it when she was also the one playing the Ouija board with my mom. So how convenient that it happened when it was just me and her. So
that's creepy.
Yeah. And then my mom likes to talk about, I'll say this one last story since we're just, since I'm being so open, I normally don't talk about this stuff. So there was an instance where after they played with the Ouija board, they had received some information about someone that had died in the duplex that we were in. And my mom says she ended up seeing him, dude with the top hat, all this kind of stuff. And telling this to like a 7, 8-year-old, it freaked me the hell out. And the blessing of my mother also was that she worked at a video rental store way back in the day and used to bring home the VCR on Fridays. So it was horror movie weekend all the time. So I guess that's one of the reasons why I'm doing all this. But thanks, Mom. Appreciate it.
I was gonna say it comes from back then. You have all that, all those films back there.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what's crazy is as you get older, and this kind of harkens back to your film and what we've been talking about. When you get older, you realize what can be played with, what can't, and what truly is evil and what really isn't. I don't think, John, that something like this.
Oh, yeah.
On VHS, no less. I don't think anything like that being in my home is evil or anything like that. That's a film. But
it's the spirit in the film, though.
What are you saying, Gary?
It's the spirit in the film, though, that sometimes it's like John used to leave the puppet at the house, and come back the next night and shoot, and it's just a puppet. But I'd wake up in the night and I'd go look and make sure that it was still in the box.
Gotcha. Well,
but it's just a puppet, and we're making a movie with it. But there's just something, that goes on in our brains, and inside that box, that little movie, there's almost like a spirit in there that draws you to watch it, and it wants you to believe it, and that's.
You may be onto something, Gary. This may be the reason why if I watch a horror flick late at night, I always throw on like Liar Liar or Tommy Boy afterward, to kind of break the monotony there, and kind of set everything at ease before bedtime. So let's do this. Where are we at here? We're winding things down. We've been talking about the film. We've been deep. We've talked about some craziness on my end. We've talked about the puppet. Let's do this. Let's go back and forth between Gary and you, John Charles. Let's talk about starting with you, John. What was your? I don't know whether I like doing this, but what was your favorite part of the film to film? Because not only did you write, direct, act, what was your favorite kind of moment in the film?
I don't know why, but there's a small sequence of there's this character that Floyd sees that has a gas mask on.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that sequence. It's very creepy, and I enjoyed filming it, and it came out so well. And I just, the way that I shot it, and using that angle where the character is above to make him more powerful. That was I really enjoyed that character, and I wish I was going to put it in a hidden scene in another part, but we were shooting very late at night, sometimes out in the field, and it was almost it was not safe. But I was going to put that character more in the film in a hidden way, where people would see it, and then maybe it would pass by them, but then they would watch the film again, and they would see I was going to put him way back there, like behind a tree. And so, yeah, I enjoyed that sequence of the gas mask man. I thought it was great. It's so like creepy, and
yes.
The voice. Well, the gas mask character, that's the first time that Floyd puts a face to the voice. He goes, "Oh, is that you? That's you." And I thought that was a great encounter for the character to put a skin to the voice that he's been hearing the whole time. Mm-hmm. It was important.
Before I watched the film, like I said, I want to go in with, just open mind and on everything. When I first heard the inner dialogue guy talking to Floyd, I almost thought this was going to be sort of like a Venom situation where Eddie had Venom talking on the inside of him and stuff like that, and they were working as one, and they were trying to figure each other out, kind of thing. Yeah. So I thought that was really cool. Because I think that we all have, and it's kind of weird too, because when I talk to myself on the inside, it's not like I'm talking to you now. And I kind of figured that out the other day. I'm trying to pump myself or something up, pump myself up or something. I don't sound like me. I sound like this character who, I don't know, am I making sense? Am I?
Yeah. No, you're making perfect sense.
Okay.
We all have that voice, and it's especially when somebody has lived a traumatic experience.
Yeah.
The voice, it's kind of like your inner self-destructive,
One example is the other day, The Shining.
We're all going blank.
the Shining, the original, where Danny is talking about Tony.
Oh yeah.
Well, in the TV version, that was closer to what King's vision was of in the book. It turns out Tony was just Danny later on in life. And it was like his older self trying to protect him. So it's kind of weird, you've got this inner voice maybe coaching you, guiding you and stuff like that. And, that would be a good flick. Someone who's a kid trying to, protected by this inner voice, and it turns out it's his future self trying to, keep him from harm's way.
Well, and Johnny, that voice he hears that later we put a face to the name, sort of. That voice is there to kind of disturb him, to kind of mock him, it's nothing good. But when that connection that he has to that voice, that's the connection I made to the trauma. Usually people that have lived the trauma have some sort of voice that it kind of like lowers their self-esteem, and it makes them think it's their fault, and it's a very dark thing.
Yes.
But I decided to make that film. I mean, the voice very kind of creepy and kind of like disturbing at the same time, and that's why it was very difficult to make that voice, actually, technically, through sound design. It was not as easy as it looks.
Gary, favorite part of the film to shoot? What do you got?
At the dining room table, being angry. I'm not an angry person. I mean, I've been mad in my life, but I've never slammed down and screamed and hollered and things like that. And the original thing that we had planned was the cup of milk was going to jump up in the air and emphasize the anger.
Right.
The first time we did it and practiced it was great. I don't know how many takes did we do, John, to try to get it to work, and it never did after that.
A lot, but it came out so perfect.
It came out great, and
perfect.
To bring out that anger from not being angry, it was, for me, it was kind of satisfying that, oh, wow, I am good. I can do this.
Gary knows horror. Gary knows how to get angry when he needs to.
Isn't he awesome?
It's like Gary's like the horror version of the Hulk. Dr. Banner.
My old job was you'd have to change personalities and change perspectives as you go from call to call. Never is it the same, so you'd have to put on a different face and a different way of doing things. So he called on me to be angry, and I had to practice it. But it got to the point where when I saw myself, I was like, "Is that really me?" That's not me.
Was your first time seeing it at the initial screening, Gary? Or did you pick it daily some? Or
one or two parts for me, but I said I don't want to see it till it's done.
Yeah.
So the shot of me from the angle, from the side, and then from the front, and me looking in, and being angry. In the beginning, I started to like, is that really me? And because I'm not used to that. But then again, I said, okay, well, this is serious stuff, and it was amazing how I could fall into that part, looking at that puppet, knowing what the puppet represented.
Right.
So yeah, he brought out some parts of me that I didn't think that I could bring out, and I'm really
definitely signs of a great director.
Yeah. And
thank you.
I look forward to the next.
I learned patience too. That was a good part about it. So.
Yes. John, let me ask you this, man. What's next for you? What are you working on?
Well, I really want to dive deep into the things that we can't see that are supernatural. So there's like the monster horror, there's the slasher horror, there's all these subgenres of horror, but then there's the like, I guess, supernatural horror.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny is actually not really a horror film, like you said,
Right.
said in the beginning. It's a very disturbing psychological drama that has fallen into the horror genre
Right.
comfortably. But what I want to do is I want to explore the human damaged mind, like I did with Johnny, but more in this a little bit more spiritual. Like, I don't know if I'm sure you guys seen Ghost with Patrick Swayze and
Yes.
Demi Moore. That was one of the first films I saw. It was the first film I saw in a movie theater when I was a kid, and I talked about this in another interview. And I was really moved by this film because it was so realistic, the way that the demons take the guy down to hell, or the way that they show all these like spirits,
Yeah.
And so I want to dive deep into that. Like, if I could make another Ghost but show more, like when the demons take the guy down, I want to show what, keep showing, like go to hell and show something like that down there. Show people where they're going, or when the angels, not in that movie there wasn't angels, but there was more like spirits. But what happens, like when the light comes down and he rejects it? But I want to show, like, okay, go up there and show people what's up there. Like, for instance, not to make anything confusing, but like if a guy gets shot and dies, I want to show what happens next. They're not doing that a lot. And in another interview, I'll also talk about Mel Gibson kind of going that way, and I love that. And so that's what I want to do. I want to dive a little deep into that sector.
I'd love to see it.
I don't know if it's horror, but it's just,
no. I think, and that's the thing. Now that it's, the genre has so many subgenres and everything's kind of overlapping, and it's like the conversation that we've had already. The monsters now aren't the ones under the bed. It's
right.
We're bombarded with seeing things on TikTok and on the news and everywhere, and the real horror is out in front of us. And I always thought that the definition of a horror film was taking something that we don't want to talk about, we don't want to deal with, or we don't know how to deal with, we don't know how to cope with, and we somehow take that and put it on a screen. That was one thing Wes Craven always talked about, was he wanted to take, horror, making a horror film was taking something that you're scared of, nightmares. And, well, if I make a film about it, I'm no longer scared of it. It's put out there in the ether. Everybody can watch it. And it's something that collectively all happens to us. And it's a subject matter that we can all talk about. Same thing with Johnny. Same thing with this future film that you're going to that you will make. I'm sure you'll make it. And it'll be great. Talking about and pulling that veil back about, the minute that we're no longer here, what happens. And that, my friend, is definitely something that I can't wait to check out.
Yeah, definitely. And there's directors like Jordan Peele who's doing that. He's using a lot of psychological within the horror genre, using racism, things like that. And that's like the new, it's becoming like an evolved part of the genre, where you're putting more real things into the subject. Even with the latest Invisible Man, there was like an abuse thing going on there, so physical abuse. So that's I'm very interested in this, the way that horror is evolving. Not that I don't know if I consider myself a horror filmmaker, but
no, you're a filmmaker, man.
Yeah,
you're a filmmaker, and what I feel like, I think that just by talking with you, I think that your goals are to be that of like a like a Spielberg or whatever. You may go cross genre or whatever, but I feel like that. I mean, I don't know how a better way to say it, man. You're a legit filmmaker. I think whatever story that comes your way or that you have internally inside you that you want to tell, it'll come out and it'll be whatever genre that people think that fits it, but people are going to love it.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Gary. Let's do one more little thing, and we're going to do the Tony Robbins segment that I told you guys about. Okay, Gary, one film recommendation for our viewers that you think that they should check out. Can be something recently that you watched or something that's your all-time favorite. Well, it could be horror or not be horror. It's totally up to you.
My favorite movie of all times was Brazil by Terry Gilliam.
Okay.
And that was pretty much our society, 30 years ago?
Okay.
I predicted it would be, and it's kind of is right now. Just chaos and horror and violence and stuff like that. That's probably one of my favorite movies of all time, other than the original Frankenstein with Boris Karloff and Clive, I forget what his last name is, and Dwight Frye, and he's alive, it's alive. I mean,
right.
He can't beat that.
What about you, John Charles?
The Killing of a Sacred Deer. That's a route I want to go to. That's newer,
right?
Yeah, that's newer. It's very different. It's very, yeah. That's the kind of the things I want to do in the films. It has a lot of subtext, like Johnny has a lot of subtext. In fact, going back to Johnny real quick, there's a lot of numeric subtext. There's a 555 number that's coded throughout the whole film. You see it in hidden little visual places. You hear it. And some people have been asking me about, sorry, I went off on this question, but some people have been asking me about what those numbers mean, 333 minutes later. I don't know. That's actually mathematically coded to where if you add it all up, everything's 555. And we have a story with the 555, but anyway, I went off the subject. So yeah, that film Killing of a Sacred Deer is it's extremely odd, and it's got a lot of subtext, and I recommend that.
Who's that directed by?
Oh, he has such a difficult name to pronounce. Oh crap. Let me get back to you on that, because
I'll look it up and I'll put it in the notes. Gary's suggestion and yours, because that's one thing I've been trying to do with every interview is see what you guys are watching. I'll just go ahead and give you mine. I'm on this Brian Bertino kick. Brian Bertino put out this film called The Dark and the Wicked, but several years before that, he did The Strangers. And so were the home invasion, which, isn't a slasher or necessarily a horror flick, but Brian really likes to use his actors in the foreground and this, the bad stuff coming in the background, and someone with a mask or someone or a shape or an entity or whatever, and you see it blurred out and you're like, oh my God, turn around. And he's really into that stuff. And that's where I'm at right now. So as I'll put that in the notes and stuff like that. Killing of Sacred Deer.
It's Colin Farrell's in there.
Okay.
The name of the director is so hard to pronounce too. It's one of those that you forget easy.
Gotcha.
But he has a lot of Kubrick moments on that film.
Okay. Well, I'm definitely going to check that out. In fact, I know on Amazon Prime, Ghost is on there. I really kind of want to rewatch it based off our conversation this evening, and kind of hit you up with maybe what I thought about that.
Yes. Yeah.
So we come to our Tony Robbins segment, which I'm sure, we're on episode 14. I'm sure when we get to episode 200, he'll hear about this and ask us to stop saying it. But Gary, basically what we want to do is I want to give you 60 seconds. And if you could give an up-and-coming actor, filmmaker, wannabe, aspiring, whatever, any kind of piece of advice that you've had at this point, what would you tell them?
If somebody selects you to be in their film, they must see something in you, or there's something about you that appeals to them. Allow them to take you to where they want you to go.
Yeah.
And be confident in yourself. You know, don't be too over. I was very critical of myself in the beginning, and I just didn't think I could do it. If your producer or director or whatever said, it's nothing here, we're just going to go over it a couple of times, go with it, lose your ego. Don't let anything get in between you and your character, because if you're working with two people, you guys have to support each other.
Right.
That's what actors do, is they support each other. They're partners. And the best thing to do is just, take a breath, come into yourself, relax, and just go with the flow of the script and the director.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That was great, man. Thank you. John Charles, what about you, man?
Yeah, there's a lot of filmmakers that think that they never start their first film because they think they're maybe getting old, or they're an age where if they start, they'll just be too old by the time they finish. And I think that, I think the more you live, the better you can tell a story, and the more you can relate to human experiences. So yes, it's good to start early, but what kind of films are you going to make when you're too young? When you have lived more, you
Right.
can actually tell a better story because you have lived life better. So don't think it's too late. You can start a film at any age. It doesn't matter if you started at 90. Well, you'll make one film, but you'll make a great film,
Right.
So it's never too late. Just start. And if that's what you're called for, don't think of a number. Oh, I'm 30, I'm 40. No, just the more you live, the better you're going to tell that story.
Awesome. Guys, I won't keep you any longer. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight. It was a great interview. I loved our conversations. Thank you so much. I hope to speak to both of you again. John, I look forward to your next project, and please keep us posted. We'd love to promote and have you back again, okay?
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and it was great talking to you. Awesome.
Thanks, Gary. Hope to talk to you again, sir. You both have a great rest of the night and stay safe, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Bye-bye.